Let's talk about this Microsoft E3 2019 conference, because there's almost no doubt that this was the conference to watch this year, as I've discussed before, which is why I think overall their showing that Xbox conference this year was kind of underwhelming, honestly. That's not to say that it was terrible, it was bad, or there was anything in particular that really stood out as terrible or anything like that. It was just underwhelming. There were still some fantastic moments, and I'm going to be thrilled to talk about those very soon, but I think overall they didn't meet expectations, and at the end of the day that may be our own fault for setting high expectations in our own head. They didn't meet my personal expectations, and I think that's why they underwhelmed in a lot of ways. With Sony taking the year off, it was easy to think, I guess this is going to be kind of a rest break-ish sort of year for everyone involved. But then, of course, we thought, well, Microsoft can take the opportunity, and they failed to do that. I guess what I'm saying is, it felt like the conference they would have put on if Sony was there. But the fact of the matter is, of course, Sony wasn't there, and in that respect, they failed to take advantage of that chance, I think. Let's go through some of the things that were announced and that were done at the conference. Bleeding Edge, Ninja Theory's new game, was revealed, and I think it's cool that this is a brand new game, a new IP for Microsoft to add to their first party lineup, which is something they desperately need. And I think it's good that Ninja Theory had something ready to go, especially considering they were only acquired last year. However, I do not like the look of Bleeding Edge. I don't know, I don't like multiplayer games personally, and that whole kind of wacky art style, I guess is the best way to describe it. Kind of Overwatch looking, it doesn't really appeal to me, and it looks somewhat generic at this point in time, just because Overwatch has kind of made it so mainstream in the industry, I suppose. So hopefully it finds an audience, but it didn't really stand out to me personally. Although I do have to say it's got a fantastic name. I won't go through everything, but I've got some other highlights. There was a Blair Witch game, which at first when it came up, the trailer started, I thought that it looked like Resident Evil 8 to me. I don't know, I never played 7, but just the way it looked and the way I remember 7 looking in the trailers and things like that, I'm like, oh my god, is this Resident Evil 8? But no, it was a Blair Witch game, so that's cool. I don't really like horror games because I'm a pussy pretty much. Then Cyberpunk 2077 got a cinematic trailer, got a release date in April, which is very close to my prediction of May, so I guess I'm gonna kind of take that. But of course, Keanu Reeves, I mean, I don't need to say anything else. It was amazing. In my opinion, it was absolutely the moment of the conference, and I think it will go down as one of the best E3 moments ever. But other than that, Cyberpunk looked fantastic, as it always does. I don't really need to get into that any further, to be honest. It's so cool. In a way, it's actually kind of weird to me that CD Projekt Red has taken a game that's already so cool and decided to add the coolest person ever to make it more cool. I think it's awesome. Microsoft acquired Double Fine, which is interesting, I guess. I never played a Double Fine game. I of course saw the Psychonauts 2 trailer that played after the acquisition was announced. There's something about the Psychonauts art style that I really hate. It looks like a product of another time in gaming, and I feel like it's just ugly. I don't know, I'm sorry, it doesn't appeal to me at all. Gears 5 got a September release date, and I do have to say that's one of the weirdest games at this conference. The way they decided to kind of show that off was quite strange, I think. There was a little kind of mini trailer thing where they revealed the release date in September, but then we got an extensive look into one of the multiplayer co-op modes, and it went for way too long, and I think it really tanked the pace of the whole conference, to be honest. And I don't understand why we were getting such in-depth detail into that particular aspect of the game when we could have gotten a new story trailer or something like that. I know we got similar things last year, but I don't know, it felt weird to me. I felt like what they were doing with Gears 5 should have been something they just mentioned, not spend 5 minutes on with this weird CG trailer. So for me personally, that's kind of where I felt the whole thing started to go downhill from a presentation perspective. The rumoured From Software game that was in collaboration with George R.R. Martin was announced with a CG trailer. It's called Elden Ring, and bizarrely the logo is like exactly the same font as the Lord of the Rings logo, which I think is really weird, and I don't, it's a weird choice. If I were them, I would change that. It's ridiculously similar, especially considering Ring is also in the name. Anyway, it looked kind of ominous and spooky. We didn't get any gameplay or really any idea of the setting. It was more of a trailer, I guess, to kind of just showcase the tone and the dark nature of the world. It was all very vague stuff. And we got absolutely no idea when it's coming out. I thought in my predictions video we'd get an early 2020 release date, but that didn't happen. At the same time though, there was a lot that got an early 2020 release window, so I guess that's a plus. We can't have too many games coming out, right? And then of course we got the announcement of Project Scarlet, which is going to be the next Xbox, the Xbox 2, whatever you want to call it. It was confirmed in exactly the same way, like I said in my predictions video, that they confirmed Scorpio in 2016 before it was officially unveiled properly at E3 2017. And the weird thing with this particular announcement was, even though I predicted it, that they were going to do it this way and not give any details, but even though I was right, and even though in that sense my expectations were met, I was still underwhelmed somehow. I at the very least felt, like I said in that predictions video, that surely we would see something running on next gen tech. Didn't think we were going to actually see the console or anything, but I thought surely we'd get a Halo Infinite demo that showed off next gen technology, but we didn't even get that. Instead, for Halo Infinite, we got another cinematic trailer kind of thing, which is cool, I guess. And alongside it, Phil Spencer confirmed that Halo Infinite will be a launch title for Scarlet in holiday 2020, which seems so far away. So all the stuff on paper doesn't sound bad at all, but I just think that there was a missed opportunity here. I think that they should have gone all in on next-gen tech, shown it off, really demonstrated what it was capable of in some capacity. And I think the best way to do that was through Halo Infinite. We already got the kind of cinematic trailer thing last year for Infinite, so then to kind of do it again, but just a longer version of it, with a different kind of, I guess, tone, it felt underwhelming in that respect, because Halo fans effectively waited a whole year for just kind of more of the same from a trailer perspective. I very much thought we had to see gameplay this year for Halo Infinite, and the fact we didn't was surprising, and I think that was one of the main factors, especially since they ended on it, that made the conference quite disappointing in the end. I think they needed gameplay, and having it running on Scarlet would have brought it all together in a really nice way, I think, but they missed that opportunity. The way they announced their streaming plans was also really bizarre, which I guess is kind of the last thing I haven't touched on yet, because they brought it up and they kind of went through the dot points of what the streaming is going to look like on Xbox One X starting in October, and then of course leading into the next generation it will be a big part of that. I thought, as I said in my predictions video, that they were really going to go in detail on their streaming stuff. I thought that was the stuff, as opposed to next gen, they were actually going to fully detail. They were going to tell us the name, they were going to tell us how it works, and all that kind of thing. But to be honest, they didn't really tell us anything new. We effectively know very little right now more from the streaming service than we did this time last week, which is very disappointing in my opinion. I thought we'd for sure get some kind of gameplay demonstration of it going as a direct competitor to the Google Stadia stuff, but nah, we just got some dot points and people saying, oh yeah, it's gonna be great, it's coming to 1X this October, you know. They didn't tell us anything new on that front, and that was quite disappointing, I think. So as you can see, running through these announcements here, nothing was bad independently, I don't think. It was just some odd choices and missed opportunities throughout in these different segments and throughout these different dot points that I think really overall made it an underwhelming conference. Overall, I think I'd give the conference a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10, as opposed to last year's conference for Microsoft, which I thought was a 9 out of 10. I thought that was a superb conference, and this year, a combination of missed opportunities, weird pacing at times, and I guess them not meeting expectations in some ways, just really brought this year's down in my opinion. Not to mention there were some big omissions. I really thought that we had to get the Harry Potter game or the WB Montreal game, but we got none of those either, so I don't know what the hell's going on with them. I guess we're just waiting till next gen. I guess more developers are just waiting it out till the next gen starts than I thought. But anyway, Keanu Reeves though, how good was that? Anyway, there are my thoughts on the Microsoft conference this year. Make sure you leave your opinions in the comment section down below as to what you thought of this year's Xbox briefing. If you're new around here, maybe consider subscribing, you know. Check out some of the content, I'd definitely appreciate that. I'll see you all next time. This has been SirCazz. Farewell.